All right, folks, it is 1:30. We're going to get started. There's a few people that haven't shown up yet, so there may be a pause here and there, but we'll get through it. Okay, so once again, today's a little different. I have put a quiz up for today, but I don't want you to freak out. It's not a quiz. I had to call it a quiz in order to format it in this Zoom program or this Canvas program the way I wanted it to. It's actually an activity, okay? And we're going to kind of do it together, so it shouldn't be too bad. All right, so as long as you're here, I'm guessing you're all right. And if you're not here, you wouldn't know it anyway. So there you go. Hold on, I got a bunch of people coming in all at once. Let's get them all in here. So we're going to start and see what we got, okay? So let's try and make things as clear as mud right off the bat. One of the difficulties we're going to have if and when you guys are brought back this school year is that it's very, very, very almost assuredly, almost 100% likely that it's going to be some funky schedule, okay? And what that means, so far what I've seen is a schedule that would get you guys here 2 days a week, an hour a day. So basically 2 hours a week, as opposed to 4 days a week, an hour a day. Not only that, but you're looking at a quarter instead of a semester. So you're looking at 9 weeks instead of 18 weeks. I think so. So you kind of go, you come in, yeah. So Richard, now don't take this as the gospel, but you'd be here for 4 periods a day, 2 days a week, is my guess. So yeah, that's what I understand. And then you'd be at home 3 days a week, and that's as much as I know. I don't think anybody would be in on Wednesdays, because Wednesdays is a clerical day or something like that. It gives teachers a chance to plan. So anyway, so all that being said, with the absolute limited amount of time you would have to do anything in this class, makes it very difficult. In other words, I can't run my normal curriculum for this class, okay? It's going to have to be, whether you want to call it abridged or different or altered or weird or whatever you want to call it, it's not going to be the same, okay? Yeah, 4 hours, 4 classes, something like that. 4 hours, 15, an hour and 15 minutes, something like that. Richard, it doesn't really pay to get too concerned about it yet, because I don't think they know for sure yet, and I certainly don't know. So I don't think the district knows for sure what it's going to be. So we'll worry about, and I'm going to tell you about that. So you guys just relax for 1 second, okay? So here's the thing. I'm going to have to find things for you guys to do that can be done in the amount of time that you have, can be done with the amount of experience you have, in other words, how much time you currently have in the shop, which is 0, and are worth doing. In other words, I don't want to have, who just came in? Somebody just came in and I missed something. Let me check. Guys, give me just a second here to check this out. There it is. There we go. Anyway. Okay, so in other words, I've got to find things for you guys to do that you would want to do, and that can be done in the amount of time we'll have, and that can be done considering your level of experience, which is 0, zip, zilch, nada, donut, a big 0, nothing, okay? So that's difficult, all right? So I am enlisting your assistance. That's what this little quiz, this activity, it's more an activity than a quiz, okay? I know, that is harsh, but it's absolutely true. There may be, now that's odd, because there may be some of you that have spent time working with your hands, whether it be around the house or with relatives or friends or something like that. Here's the difficult thing is, you guys are going to come into this shop at some point in time with varying levels of ability, okay? So let's just keep that in mind. So I'm going to list your assistants, and every class is doing the same thing, whether they're beginning, intermediate, advanced, in finding projects that would be interesting to high school students, that would be not so complex or difficult that they could be done in the amount of time we have, and not so difficult or complex that they could be done by students with very little to no experience, okay? And a dining table is not going to happen, okay? So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to share my screen real quick, I think. All right, so what you have is what's called a project choice exercise. And I'm going to go ahead and click it on student view so you'll see exactly how you guys would see it, okay? So I'm going to click on it. Now, it's called a quiz as far as this program is concerned. It's not a quiz. It's an exercise. There's no wrong answers, okay? Not doing it is a wrong answer, but there's no wrong answers. So I'm going to read this intro to you guys about this activity. And I apologize for the use of the word quiz in and out of this thing. It's an activity, not a quiz. There's no wrong answers, okay? So here we go. When students choose projects for our classes, they use an online magazine called Woodsmith Library. With only a couple of exceptions, and literally 2 exceptions, this is the only source students are allowed to use for project plans. Let me clarify that. This is the only source students are allowed to use for projects and project plans and choices. You will not be allowed to draw your own plans and bring them in and build something. You will not be allowed to go online to Pinterest or Etsy or Google and find some set of plans and download them and bring them in and get them approved. You will be denied. You're not allowed to call Bob in Canada, Bob's Bitchin' Plans, and buy a set of plans from him and do them. It's not going to happen. Woodsmith Library is the only place you're allowed to pull plans from. And do we get in trouble if you do something else? Absolutely. Let me make something very, very clear to you guys. This is a very hard and fast rule in my shop. The only thing you are allowed to work on in this shop is something that has an approved set of plans. And that means a set of plans that have been approved by me. I don't often get upset out in the shop, but there's one thing that will make me blow my top faster than anything else. And I'm going to give you an example. We have a couple of these rolling bins, blue bins out in the shop that we use for scrap wood, just gets thrown away. Little pieces that are no longer usable. So let's say for some reason a student walks over to one of these scrap bins and grabs a piece of material out of it and walks over to the drill press and starts drilling holes in it, or walks over to the spindle sander and starts sanding shapes on it. If I catch you doing it, you're not going to be a very happy person, because I'm going to stop the entire class. I'm going to set you in the middle of the room, and I'm going to say, I want you guys all to see what it looks like when you do something you are absolutely prohibited from doing in this shop. I'm going to read you the riot act. I'm going to eat you up one side and down the other. I'm going to embarrass you. I'm going to hurt your feelings. I'm going to make you feel terrible. And here's why. Okay? The machines that we have in this shop have taken me 15 years to collect. It's been an incredible amount of work. I work summers, I work evenings, I work weekends, I write grants. I drive to Eugene, I drive to Portland, I drive to Seattle, I drive all over the western states to get these machines. It's an incredible amount of effort to have gotten the machines that we have in here for you guys to be able to use them. These machines have a limited lifespan, okay? They will never last forever. For example, drill bits, sandpaper that goes on spindle sanders, sandpaper that goes on edge sanders, blades, knives on planers, things like that, they wear out. When they wear out, that means I have to go, I have to get new parts, I have to drive somewhere and get them, I have to pick them up, I have to bring them back, and all this is done on my own time when I'm not getting paid. I have to bring them back, and I have to replace those parts on my own time when I'm not getting paid. So what that means is if you are walking up to a machine and using it for no apparent purpose other than to entertain yourself, that pisses me off. Because if you break that machine, or you wear out, or you put a hole in that sandpaper, or you break a tooth on that machine, or something goes wrong with that machine, when you're doing something you weren't supposed to be doing, you weren't authorized to do, that makes me mad, because I'm going to have to fix it, and I'm going to have to fix it on my own time. And it's also happened that I have to fix it with my own money. So that makes me mad. So you are not allowed to work on anything in this shop that does not have a pre-approved set of plans. Now let me try and answer your question, Jackson. Let's go through the rest of these instructions, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Before we go any further, this is not due today. Okay, it has a due date of today, but it's not due today. We're going to work on it together tomorrow, probably a little bit Friday as well, because it's that important. Okay, so don't worry about getting it done today. Okay, do not sweat it. We're going to pretty much kind of do it together. Okay, we're going to work on it together. So here we go. When students choose projects for our classes, they use an online magazine called Woodsmith Library. With only a couple of exceptions, this is the only source students are allowed to use for project plans. Today's quiz, actually today's activity, is an example in how to properly submit a project to your teacher that you'd like to make. Here's what you need to do for the quiz, or for the activity. Go online and find the site linked below. And we'll do this here in just a minute, but this is a direct link to the site I'm talking about. In the upper right portion of the page, you should see where you're supposed to log in to the site. The login information is below. So how you log into this site, I paid for this site out of my own pocket, so we have access to these plans. So this is my login information. The email address you use to log in is my school email address. It's listed right here. And the password you need for login is LEIGH and the number 1. It's right here, okay? After you log into the site, there's a menu near the top of the page. You'll want to click on the Search or Browse Issues link. This will take you to a list of all the magazine issues that are available to you. You can use the search window near the top of the page to try and search for specific types of projects, or you can simply browse individual issues to get an idea of what's available. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to find a project that might interest you and fill out the information that's asked for in the quiz. Here's an example. There are 3 pieces of information I need from you when you fill this out. I need the issue number, and I'll show you where to find that. I need the page number that the project you're speaking of starts on, and I need the name of the project, the accurate name of the project. You can't just say case. It'd be roll, top, chisel case, okay? So that's all you need to do. If you have any questions over the course of this activity, you can email me anytime and I'll answer, okay? And I'll also answer all the questions you have during class too. So I'm going to show you what the quiz looks like, okay? And it's the same thing right here. And here's the question. Woodsmith Library is where we get our plans for our projects. When you make a choice, blah, 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 blah. Here's what I want you to do. Provide your answer for each question below. And you'll write them down here. So in other words, issue number, you'd write the issue number, page number, and name of project. So for example, if the issue number was 273, all I'd do was I'd type in 273. Page, let's say the page was 36. And name, let's say the project was called Wicker Widget. Okay, that's all you got to do. Hit submit. That's all I'm asking for. Now, let me explain how you're actually going to do this. I'm going to get off this page here. There's a lot of discussion we need to have about these magazines and about what I'm actually looking for. And that is a very good question, Jackson. Can it be a big thing? Okay. Now, that's not a super easy question to answer, and let me show you why. I'm going to go ahead and click on this link, and I'm going to log in, okay? And this is my email address. Yours, it won't pop up. You'll have to type in the whole thing. And the password is LEIGH and the number 1. All right, so we're going to log in. Then you can go over here to search or browse issues. Yeah, you can copy and paste it too. Yeah, we have the longest email addresses I've ever seen. Now, when you click on search or browse issues, this is what's going to come up. You have a search window right here where you can put in a specific word like desk or table or whatever the case may be, or you can just start to browse through the issues. Now, let me show you something. There are a lot of these magazines. If I go back to the very beginning, you'll notice that way up here, the covers are all in color, right? Down here, the covers are all in black and white. In other words, from 1979 through, I think it's 91, through 1991, all the issues have black and white covers, okay? I do not accept project choices from these black and white issues, and here is why. These are pretty old magazines. They hadn't figured out how to do it properly yet, so there are a lot of mistakes in these plans. There are a lot of things missing that you need in these plans. There's just too many discrepancies in these older volumes to deal with. So we limit ourselves to dealing with a magazine that just has a color cover. Okay, we stick with the more, let's just call it modern color. Okay, whatever you want to call it. We stick with the color front page. So let's talk about these magazines a little bit. There are a ton of projects in these magazines, but for the most part, the majority of the time, anytime you open up one of these magazines, okay, it's a pretty slow website, so it can take a minute for it to load. The first place you're going to want to go is the table of contents. Okay, the table of contents is going to tell you basically what all's being, what's in here. You guys know what a table of contents is. But most of these magazines have 3 or 4 projects in them. On top of the projects, they'll also have certain specific techniques, or for example, how to dress up a square leg, or how to apply resin finishes, or how to do tenons on the router table. And there's a question and answers area, and there's how to do add-ons to dust. There's all these different little helpful stories. But what you're looking for are the projects, okay? Most of these magazines have about 3 projects. Most of them also have one large, more complex project, and then 1 or 2 smaller projects. For example, the main project of each issue is usually on the front page. For example, the big project in this issue is this entertainment center, this media center, okay? But along with that, there is also a project called hanging wall shelves, another one called snack tray cabinet. Now I'm going to show you 2 very different examples of projects in these magazines, okay? I'm going to start with this flat screen media center. It's on page 30. So I can either go down here and click on this arrow and keep waiting for it to load until we get to page 30, or I can go up here and just type in page 30 and hit enter. It'll take me right to it. Now, the first thing you should think when you see a project like this, wow, that's big, okay? There is no way I'm gonna be able to do that for a bunch of different reasons. Number 1, I don't know enough. That's probably the biggest reason. Number 2, there's not enough time. Number 3, wow, that's expensive, okay? So that's one thing you should see when you first glance at a project like this. Another thing that will tell you a lot about the project, as you go through the description of each project, for example, if we look at this, this is page 30 right here, right? Okay, let's see how many pages are in this project. Okay, let's see here. That's part of it. Okay, so there's 11 pages of this project, And that's really not all. There are also some techniques that you need to know how to do that are involved in this project, like making cove molding on the table saw and things like that. These all apply to that project. So that's a really complex project. You can tell by the number of pages, you can tell by the picture of the finished project, but there's one really, really important thing to look at when it comes to understanding how complex a project is. There are 3 things that every single project a student wants to make in this class has to have. Okay, 3 things. 2 of them we're going to address here. I'm not going to worry about the 3rd one right now. We'll worry about that later. But the first 2 most important things that every single project has to have is a set of plans that are approved by me, and those plans need to include 2 things. The first thing every set of plans needs is a set of drawings with the dimensions, and that's one of the reasons we use only these magazines, because these magazines, every single project in those color-covered magazines, the newer ones, always has all the drawings necessary with all the dimensions necessary. For example, right here, case top, it's designated letter B right here, okay? That piece, that case top is 19 inches wide and 47 inches long, okay? The back, designated as E here, okay? That back is 20.5 inches wide, 47.5 inches long, okay? This opening in the back of it is 15.5 by, doesn't tell you the height, but it tells you how much space there is below the hole, 4 inches, and how much space there is above the hole, 2.5 inches. So 4 plus 2.5 is 6.5 inches. So if this back is 20.5 inches wide, and you're supposed to have 6.5 inches between here and here, how tall is that opening? It's 14 inches tall. Okay, so you may have to do some mathing here, okay? Right? There's math in woodworking, whether you like it or not, there's math. It tells you locations of screw holes. It tells you things like that. You'll notice there's a dado right here. That's called a dado, okay? There's a rabbet along the bottom edge of this. It doesn't tell you too much about those things, but there are exploded views here that will tell you things like how to prep for screwed locations, things like that. How to prep for a T-nut like this. Over here, you're going to see things like how to do the face frame. This is a top section, which means you're looking at it from above. Okay. This is a side section, which means you're looking at it from the end. This is a side section, which means you're looking at it from the end. And it always has the little letters here. This little M in a circle, this little H in a circle, the J, things like that. You're going, what the hell does that mean? I don't know what that means. Well, I'll tell you what that means. The second thing every set of plans must have is what we call a cut list. They call it a materials, supplies, and cutting diagram. The short name for that is a cut list, C-U-T, cut list. I'm going to type that in the chat so you guys can physically see it. That is a cut list. Okay, so the 2 things every set of plans have to have are drawings with dimensions and a cut list. These magazines always have both, okay? And they're usually very good. All right, so let me talk about this cut list a little bit so you can understand. We'll go over this in more detail, but there's one really important thing I want you to understand about this cut list. You remember those little letters that were in the circles? That's what these mean. For example, that M that was in a circle is talking about the base molding. The A that was in a circle, that's the size. So sometimes they'll use sometimes the letter designations is all they can fit on the part they're trying. They can't write the whole name there, so they just put the letter there. So A is the sides. The number in parentheses is how many you need. So in other words, you need 2 sides, you need 2 case top and bottom, you need 2 dividers, 2 horizontal dividers, 1 back, 2 face remnants, blah, 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 blah. Here's where we get to the important stuff, okay? The dimensions of each individual part. Okay. I will take a look and let you know, Jackson. Okay, give me a minute here and I'll look at it. Okay. So in every single cut list in these magazines, and I mean every single one, they are very good about this. Okay. The very first number that's listed in the dimensions is always the thickness. This is 3/4 inch plywood. If you don't see that ply right after that, that means it's solid wood. Okay, solid material. So the thickness is always first, 3/4 inch thick. The second number is always the width of the part, 19 1/4 inches wide. The third is always the length. So this part is 24 1/4 inches long. So it's always every single time going to be thickness, then width, then length. And if you happen to put 2 and 2 together, you'll recognize that that is the same as our order of operations in the shop that we have been talking about. The way we move from machine to machine in the shop, the way we get a piece of material milled and brought to square in the shop, we do the thickness first, then we do the width, then we do the length. We just went over that, what, 2 days ago, and we did it once before that. We go thickness, then width, then length. That is the exact same order that these dimensions are in the plans. Thickness is first, then width, then length, okay? So that's really an important concept to understand. So not only will they tell you the wood, the lumber material that you need. So this first list is just for the base cabinet. This is just the material that you need for this base cabinet. That's from here to here, okay? Then these two side cabinets, this is the material for the side cabinets, okay? Then these two upper cabinets here, this right one and this left one, this is the material for the upper cabinets there and here. And then the bridge, this piece right here, this is the material for the bridge, okay? And then this list right here that doesn't have any letter designation, it's just got bullet points, that's the hardware, the physical hardware like drawer slides and hinges and pulls and latches and knobs and glass and things like that. That's the hardware list for the project, okay? So the point I'm trying to make here is this. There's a couple ways you can find out if a project might be doable by somebody like you over the course of 8 or 9 weeks. The first, take a look at it. This thing's monstrous, okay? There is no way that a beginner, intermediate, or even 99% of my advanced students are going to be able to do this project, much less do it in 8 or 9 weeks. I know it's very confusing, but I'm going to do my best to clarify it over the next couple of days, okay? So that's one thing you can look at, is just look at the picture of the project. How complex, how big, how enormous, how ginormous, how gigantic does it look? And then take a look at how many pages of instructions and plans it takes to build it. If it's 2 or 3 or 4 pages, it shouldn't be too bad. But if it's 10 or 11 pages long, holy cow, there is no way you're going to get that done in 8 or 9 weeks, okay? And then lastly, take a look at, where did it go? I lost it. Oh, come on. Let's go back one. No, it should be this way. These magazines are freaking me out sometimes. I got to find that cut list again. Then take a look at, come on, the cut list. If the cut list, in other words, the list of all the parts and pieces it takes to make up this whole thing, looks like this, if it gives you a headache just looking at it, too much. Now let me give you another example. All right, I'm going to go back and I'm just going to randomly pick a magazine. I'm just going to zip it up and back, and I'm just going to randomly pick one. Bam, I'm just going to grab that. Okay. I'm going to look at the table of contents. And I'm going to look at the projects. Okay. First of all, here's the 3 projects in this. They always have a picture of each project. Okay. I'm looking at these things. Okay. Now I'm going to look here. So there's a flag case, an heirloom flag case. There's a wall-mounted desk, and there's an adjustable shop stool. Okay. So let's see. Let's look at the desk. Okay. It's on page 26. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to page 26. Okay. Now, I look at the picture of it. Well, that doesn't look so bad, right? Doesn't look too big. No, that's it, Jacob. All you have to do is the issue number, the page number, the plant that it starts on, and the name of the project. Okay. So this doesn't look too bad, right? It's not huge or anything. It's just this thing hanging on the wall. There's a couple drawers, no big deal. Then I look at this. This will tell me a little bit about it. Well, what does this look like? It's like, doesn't look too bad. You know, it's not too crazy. You know, not too nuts. Let's go, let's take a look, and you can just kind of look through, okay, yeah. And I do not, look, I'm not trying to confuse you guys like crazy. I do not expect you guys to understand these drawings yet. But if you look at a drawing, I'm trying to think of an analogy I can use for you guys that you'd understand. All right, you guys probably, for the most part, have a cell phone or have a friend with a cell phone or know somebody with a cell phone. Okay. If you have a cell phone, you know how to use it. You can answer a call, you can text somebody. I mean, you can hold it in your hand and you can touch the screen and you can find your way around the thing, right? Do you physically know how it works? Could you open that cell phone up and repair it? Could you find an issue with a circuit board in that cell phone and physically repair it? Okay, that's kind of what we're looking at here. I can look at this. I can look at this and I say, well, that doesn't look too complex. I know how to open that drawer. I know how there's a top, there's a bottom, there's 3 drawers, there's a side, there's another side. Okay, I was pretty accurate. Yeah, it's got a top, it's got a bottom. Oh, there's a couple of things I didn't see before, but you know, oh, here's some apps here that I haven't seen before, but I could probably figure out what they're for. But understanding all the dimensions and all the different pieces and things going on in here is a whole different story. You don't have Richard's trying to get back in. I don't see him on my list of people trying to get in. There he is. Got him. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. In other words, you may not understand the inner workings of a piece of furniture, but you can tell by looking at it if it's like out of control complex. Okay? And another way to tell by looking at it if you bit off more than you can chew is with that cut list. I mean, how many parts make it up? I mean, there's A through U. I thought that said chubby tops and chubby backs. It's cubby. I don't know why. Okay. There's not too many parts. That might be like on the edge of being too much, but it doesn't look too bad, right? A lot of this is drawer parts, really. So let's try this again. Let's randomly grab another one. I'm just going to click on something. Okay, and I'm going to go to the contents, and it looks like there's 1 project, 2, 3. Looks like it may have either 4 projects or 3 projects and kind of a technique. So let's take a little closer look. There is a decorative inlay box. That'd be this guy here. Whoops. There is a versatile add-on bench. That's probably that thing right there. Nope. I don't know where the add-on bench. There is this is the cherry footboard bench and a louvered door TV console. I don't know what this add-on bench is. Let's take a look at it. It's on page 20. Let's take a look at it. It doesn't have a picture of it. It's a tool thing. So let's go back and let's see. We'll go back to table contents. All right, we're going to look at. All right, let's compare 2 projects. Okay. We're going to look at page 16 and then page 24. The little bitty jewelry box is page 16. Okay. Look at that, tiny piece of cake, no problem. Look at the size of that cut list, man. There's nothing to it, right? Look, there's like these 4 legs. It's just what, 3, 4, it's like 4 pages, nothing to it, right? So that was one of them. The other one was what? Was it page 24? Page 24. Okay, here's a bench. Look at this, man. This doesn't look bad at all, right? There's a couple of these, there's 1 of those, there's 4 of those, there's a couple of those. Look at the cut list. Wow, man, there's only like 8 parts, 8 different parts in here. No problem. That shouldn't be any problem at all. And you start to look, okay, so we got 1, 2 pages, 3, 4 pages. There's the drawings with the dimensions on it. Now we're at 6 pages. Now that's not too bad. So that's a possibility. That's not a small project, but it doesn't look at first glance to be an incredibly complex project. So let me take a look at a couple of these that people are asking me about before we run out of time. I'm going to go to, let's see, 237, because I want to give you guys some input. Okay, I can already tell you without even looking at the plans, there is no way this is going to get done, first of all, in a 9-week class. Secondly, by somebody that is in beginning right now and has never even stepped foot in this class. I would never allow somebody to start a project like this that I didn't have a pretty good handle on how good they were. And let me show you how I know that this is an absolute right off the bat. I already know it's not going to happen. It's on page 44. Now, that doesn't mean that as you grow and learn in this course that you couldn't do something like this eventually. But when you look at this, okay, so it's not crazy weird, but we're starting on page 44. And here's our first, this is just the case work. This is just getting the main case done, top, bottom, some dividers, blah, 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 no big deal. Come on, you silly mouse. What the? My mouse is freaking out, man. It wouldn't minimize. Face frame, there's 6 pages. There's 7, there's 8 pages. There's 9, there's 10 pages. There's 11. So we got 12 pages, and we've got a pretty extensive cut list. So that should tell you right off the bat, this is not what we're looking for. There was another one here that I want to look at real quick. Issue 180, page 16. Let's look at page 16. Okay, I can already tell you right off the bat, yes, this is a perfect example of what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for. No, you won't, Jackson. Maybe eventually, but here's the reason we're doing it and what I'm looking for. Okay, the reason we're doing this is so that I can get an idea of what my students' interests are, because I don't know any of you guys. I haven't had you in this room before. I don't know anything about you other than what I've seen online. I need to know what your interests are. I need to know if the interests you are showing me, the projects you are showing me, are like biting off more than you can chew, or if you're being realistic. In other words, are these things that these kids might be able to do in the amount of time they'll have, a really, really short amount of time? Or are they looking at projects like, wow, they really think they're woodworkers and they think they're going to be able to do this. It's not going to happen. We need to have a talk. Okay. The second thing it's doing for me is helping me to find small projects, small doable projects, not too complex, that I can suggest to people as well. So this is not choices you are making to build. Now, that doesn't mean that when we get back, if you made a good choice, that may be something you do, okay? But this is a conversation we're gonna have to have. This is a very realistic conversation we're gonna have to have when you guys are in this room with me. It's not gonna do a whole lot of good to have this conversation online, in all honesty. We need to sit down and see each other's faces and talk to each other and figure out how we're gonna go about coming back to school and getting you guys to the point where you could do some of these projects. Okay, because it's not as simple as it may seem. I know there's a lot of you whose eyes are bigger than your stomach and you want to start with building a house. That's not how it works. You have to learn the basics first and move up from there. But this is a good example. If you look, the nice thing about this one is you could do a single one, you could do 2, you could do 3, you could do 4, you could do all 5. Okay. So depending on how you're doing, how much time you have, things like that will determine. You can start with 1 and wow, I knocked that one out in a week, man. I'm going to start a set of 3. I should have no problem finishing it. Okay. And Jacob's asking, are we going to do the assignment today? Here's the answer. If you want to do the assignment today, you can. Okay? You do not have to. We're going to work on this tomorrow as well as a class. Okay? We're going to kind of walk through this again step by step because I know it's very confusing. It is incredibly confusing. Okay? So we're going to go. So you can, if you want to, do it today. You do not have to. Okay? And again, somebody's asking, are we going to make these in class? No. That's what I'm trying to explain to you guys. It's possible that someday you might, but we are not choosing the projects we're going to make. You're not making a darn thing in here until we come back to in-school classrooms. Okay, it's not going to happen. When we do come back to in-school classrooms, I got to figure out how to get you guys through 9 weeks and teach you what you need to know so that you can then make an intelligent choice as to what you want to make. But remember one thing, no matter what you choose to make, no matter what you put in front of me, telling me this is what I want to make, it is still up to me, okay? It's still up to me. Did I tell you guys, yeah, good luck with that, Aiden, that's not gonna happen. Not gonna happen, not in this world, okay? You guys may think you're just going to walk in and start making stuff, but I'll tell you one thing right now, and you guys need to, and I've got a couple minutes, I'm just make sure you guys understand this. You guys are not going to touch a tool in my shop, not one tool, not one machine, not a tape measure, not a square, not a spindle sander, not a table saw, not a drill press, nothing. You are going to touch nothing in my shop until I know for a fact in my heart and in my soul that you can run those machines and do it safely and do it exactly how I expect you to do it. So we've got to get past that before you start making anything, okay? I have to be able to turn my back on each and every one of you and trust that you're going to be able to run these machines safely and properly. And that takes a little bit of time. It does. It takes, normally, if this was a normal school year and normal 18-week semesters, that would take a bare minimum of 4 weeks. 4 weeks before you're allowed to touch a tool. I'm going to have to find a way to get that done in a heck of a lot less time if you guys are going to have time to do anything. No, that's not overboard. You know why that's not overboard? Aiden, I want you to answer in the chat, how many fingers do you have on your hands? On one hand, right? You got 10 fingers. Actually, you got 8 fingers and 2 thumbs, right? So you got a total of 10 digits on your hands, right? Is there anybody in this class right now that does not have all 10 of their digits, all 10 of their fingers and thumbs? Is there anybody that doesn't have them all? Anybody that's missing 1 or 2 or even a part of 1? Okay? I want to keep it that way. It's my job to keep it that way. The last phone call I ever want to make is to have to call your parents and tell them to pick you up in the hospital because they're currently trying to reattach 3 of your fingers. Okay? That is not going to happen on my watch. I have a very, very, very good safety record here. I keep my students very, very safe. Okay? And over the course of almost 20 years doing this, teaching this, I've been woodworking for, oh God, for 43 years now. I have all 10 of my fingers. I have both my eyes, okay? And over 20 years of teaching this, I've learned how to keep my kids safe, okay? And honest to goodness, I really could care less what you think or how long you think it should take or how much it's annoying you that we're still not using machines. But until I feel comfortable with you guys running machines, you won't. It's that simple, okay? Your guys' safety matters more than anything to me, okay? Period. All right, so all of that aside, you do not have to do this now. We're going to work on it some tomorrow as a class. I don't expect you to have to do anything outside of class, okay? So don't sweat it. Don't worry about it. We're going to make sure you guys all get this done and get 5 points. Don't worry about it, okay? It's going to be just fine. I know it's confusing. We'll try to clarify that confusion over the next day or two, okay? So that is going to be it for today. Thank you guys so much for participating and asking questions and commenting, okay? You do not have to do it during lunch tomorrow. No, we're going to do it during class tomorrow, and we'll even have some time on Friday to do it. So take care of yourselves. Have a good night. I will see you guys tomorrow, and bye-bye, folks.